So, if you're creating a story, you're building a world. But let's be honest, where do you even begin? It can feel like this massive, impossible task. Well, over the next few minutes, we're going to break it all down and give you a super simple framework to turn that scary blank page into a living, breathing universe. And this quote just hits the nail on the head, right? I mean, think about places like Middle-earth or the planets of Star Trek. Those settings aren't just backdrops, they're practically characters themselves. They've got their own histories, cultures, and rules that make them feel completely real. That's what amazing world building does. It just pulls you in and makes you believe. But here's the problem. The sheer scale of it all can be, well, paralyzing. You see these giant lists online with hundreds of questions, everything from, legal systems to popular hairstyles, and you feel like you're drowning in details before you've even written a single word. So how do you handle all that chaos?
That is exactly what we are here to tackle. We are going to turn this totally overwhelming task into a structured, creative journey. We're going to move from that chaotic sea of ideas to a well-ordered cosmos that actually serves your story.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to find the single most important question you need to ask. Then, we'll build the core architecture of your world, connect it directly to your characters, and finally, I'll point out a few common traps to avoid. See? It's a simple, step-by-step process. Okay, let's dive right in. The most powerful way to start is not with a map, not with a timeline, but with one single foundational idea. This is your world's core premise, that central concept that's going to make it unique. Every great fictional world can be boiled down to a really powerful what-if question. This question, it becomes your North Star for every other creative decision you make. It's the hook, the central idea that everything else is going to orbit around. Just take this example. What if sunlight is poisonous? Instantly, your mind just starts racing, right? What kind of technology would they need to survive? Would their religion worship darkness? What would happen if somebody was exiled to the surface? See? This one single idea gives you a super focused foundation to build everything else on. All right, with that premise locked in, we can actually start constructing the world itself. And we're going to do this by focusing on 3 foundational pillars that are going to support your entire creation. We're going to use what's called a top-down approach here. So we're starting with the big picture and then zooming into the details. And the order is absolutely key. We start with the physical, then the cultural, and then the rules, because each layer logically builds on the one before it. Think about it. The land shapes the people, and the people shape the laws of their world. First up, we've got to set the physical stage. Is your world a vast desert wasteland, a dense jungle, maybe a network of floating islands? The geography itself tells a story. Huge mountain ranges create natural borders. Rivers become highways for trade, and a scarcity of something like water or iron can become a huge source of conflict. Okay, so now we get to populate that physical space. Culture doesn't just develop in a vacuum. It is a direct response to the environment. So, the societies in your world, their governments, their beliefs, their social structures, all of that is shaped by the physical realities we just established. And this table just illustrates that connection perfectly. A society living in a huge, open desert is naturally going to develop completely different survival strategies, and therefore a different culture than one living in a dense, defensible forest. Their food, their clothing, even their government, it's all a direct result of their environment. And finally, our third pillar, the underlying physics of your world. This is where you define things like your magic system or your level of technology. And honestly, the most important question here isn't what can magic do, but what can't it do? Limitations and costs. That's what makes these systems interesting and creates real, believable stakes for your story. So you've built your pillars. Now what? Because a really detailed world is just a collection of facts until it directly smacks into your plot and your characters. Your world has to have a purpose. History is one of the best tools for making this connection. A world's past creates all the conflicts, prejudices, and motivations that exist long before your main character even shows up. An event like the Great Famine isn't just some historical fact. It's like a scar on the collective memory of the people. So here's the crucial step. You have to take these big, historical events and make them personal. How does this specific history shape the person your character has become? The world isn't just where your character lives, it's why they are who they are. So a character born into the aftermath of that famine is going to have a fundamentally different worldview, right? Their goals, their fears, their entire motivation might come directly from that one world-shaping event.
And just like that, your world building isn't just background detail anymore. It's the engine of your story.
Okay, we've got our framework, but as you're building, there are a few common traps you really want to avoid. Little mistakes that can pull your audience right out of the immersive experience you've worked so hard to create.
First, there's the dreaded info dump. You have to resist the urge to just explain your world's history in a big block of text. Instead, weave it into the story through dialogue, through conflict, through a character's perspective. The better example here reveals the exact same information, but it's charged with emotion and conflict. So much better. Next up, keep your rules consistent. If your magic system has established costs and limitations, you have to stick to them. When the rules get bent just for the convenience of the plot, it completely shatters the audience's belief and lowers the stakes. A clear cost is what makes the magic feel real and meaningful.
And finally, please don't get lost in the details. It is so easy to spend years building a world without ever actually writing the story. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need a solid foundation, enough to support your characters and plot. The rest of it, that can evolve as you go.
At the end of the day, world building isn't about creating some perfect, exhaustive encyclopedia. It's about asking interesting questions. Every incredible world you've ever loved began with a simple "what if?" We've given you the framework, you have the tools, so your world is waiting. What's the first question you're going to ask?